Elliot Whitmore darted through the crowded streets of New Manhattan, his mind a tangled web of calculations and contingencies. It was a bright Saturday afternoon in 2047, the city buzzing with the usual blend of holographic advertisements, autonomous vehicles humming by, and pedestrians engrossed in their augmented realities. Elliot, however, was oblivious to the spectacle around him, his attention fixed on the mission that weighed heavily on his shoulders. Clad in his trusty, worn leather jacket, a relic from countless temporal escapades, Elliot clutched his overstuffed briefcase like a lifeline. The jacket had seen better days, its once vibrant color now faded and frayed at the edges, bearing the scars of time itself. Each pocket bulged with an assortment of gadgets and gizmos, some blinking with unearthly light, others whirring with barely contained energy. Today's mission was particularly delicate: prevent the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, a single act that would theoretically avert the catastrophic cascade leading to World War I. As Elliot navigated the thrumming heartbeat of the city, his foot caught on a loose cobblestone, sending him sprawling forward. The briefcase flew open, and a flurry of strange devices scattered across the sidewalk. Passers-by stopped, gawking at the glowing instruments now lying exposed. "Careful there, Doc Brown," a voice called out, tinged with amusement. Elliot looked up to see a middle-aged man with a jovial grin leaning against a hot dog cart. The vendor's name tag read Marty, but his attire was anything but ordinary, sleeveless top revealing tattoos that seemed to shift and change when viewed from different angles. Elliot groaned, hastily gathering his belongings. "This is a time machine, and I'm just trying to get to the year 1914, but you wouldn't understand." Marty chuckled, wiping his hands on his apron. 1914? Like, World War I stuff? Man, I was thinking more like 1985, you know, Back to the Future, real fun times. Elliot froze, staring at Marty as if the man had just unveiled a hidden level in a video game. He considered the possibility, what if Marty is onto something? But he quickly dismissed the thought. His mission was clear, and there was no room for distractions, not even from a seemingly harmless hot dog vendor. With a final, exasperated glance at Marty, Elliot shoved the devices back into his briefcase and made a beeline for the nearest tram stop. As he reached for his temporal communicator, a sudden, sharp flicker sliced through the air beside him. It was subtle at first, a mere distortion in the atmosphere, but it quickly intensified, warping reality with a twisting, tearing force. Before Elliot could react, a time fracture opened before him, a swirling vortex of colors and energies that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. The shockwave hit him like a physical blow, sending him sprawling backward. The world around him seemed to hesitate, the bustling city fading into an eerie silence. Elliot could feel the very fabric of time stretching and bending, resisting his presence. When he dared to look again, the scene had changed. The hot dog cart was gone, replaced by a sleek, futuristic advertisement for an energy drink labeled Energix 2035. The vibrant colors and holographic displays clashed jarringly with the historical setting he had intended to visit. Elliot's heart raced as he pulled out one of his emergency reset devices, a small, handheld gadget designed to stabilize temporal anomalies. He activated it, hoping to mend the tear in time, but instead, the device malfunctioned, emitting a sharp, discordant noise. The fracture widened, rippling outward like a stone thrown into a pond. Elliot felt a surge of panic as he realized that each attempt to fix the timeline only exacerbated the instability. Breathing heavily, he gathered his composure. "No, this can't be happening. I need to focus." Elliot glanced at his communicator, checking his coordinates. Despite the disruption, he was still on track for Sarajevo, 1914. Determined, he adjusted his path toward the tram, ignoring the chaos unfolding around him. As he boarded the tram, Elliot couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. The conductor, a holographic figure with a perpetually stern expression, gave him a curt nod before the tram began to move. Elliot settled into his seat, the briefcase safely tucked away, and prepared for the temporal jump. The journey through time was always disorienting, a blur of colors and sensations that left his head spinning. When the tram finally came to a halt, Elliot stepped out into the vibrant streets of Sarajevo. The air was thick with tension, the city on the brink of historical upheaval. He took a deep breath, mentally mapping his surroundings, and began his mission. Elliot had studied the events leading up to the assassination meticulously. He knew the exact time and place, June 28, 1914, at the Latin Bridge. His goal was to intercept Gavrilo Princip, the man destined to carry out the fateful act. Equipped with his advanced technology and an array of temporal tools, Elliot felt prepared for the challenge ahead. He moved through the crowd with calculated precision, blending in seamlessly despite the obvious disparity in attire and demeanor. The locals eyed him with curiosity, but Elliot maintained his focus, scanning for any sign of Princip. Time was of the essence. Even a minute's delay could alter the outcome. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows over the cobblestone streets, Elliot spotted Princip among the throng of people gathered for the Archduke's visit. His heart pounded as he approached, the weight of his mission pressing down on him. Just as Princip raised his pistol, Elliot made his move. Utilizing a small, cloaked device, he created a temporary distraction, an illusion of a minor collapse nearby. The crowd gasped and recoiled, providing Elliot the perfect window to intervene. He reached out, subtly altering Princip's grip on the weapon, ensuring that the shot would never be fired. Elliot watched with a mix of relief and apprehension as the Archduke continued his procession, unaware of the near disaster averted. He felt a surge of triumph. Perhaps, just maybe, he could change the course of history for the better, but as he turned to leave, Elliot sensed something was amiss. The air around him shimmered once more, and the familiar flicker of a time fracture began to form. He glanced back, heart sinking as he saw the crowd reacting differently, unease replacing the previous excitement. The timeline was shifting again, but this time, it was different. History books and records within his communicator updated instantly, reflecting the new reality. The assassination had still occurred, but it had been carried out by someone else, an unknown assassin with motives far more sinister. The ripple effect was immediate and catastrophic. Instead of World War I, the world was now on the brink of a global conflict more devastating than anything history had ever recorded. Elliot's mind raced as he tried to comprehend the enormity of what was happening. Each small change he made was triggering unforeseen consequences, spiraling out of control. He realized with mounting dread that the time fractures were not random anomalies but deliberate disruptions, each one steering history into a darker path. Desperate to correct his mistake, Elliot pulled out another device from his briefcase, a temporal stabilizer meant to counteract fractures. He activated it, hoping to reset the timeline to its original state. But the device responded unpredictably, emitting a surge of energy that enveloped Elliot in a blinding light. When his vision cleared, Elliot found himself standing alone in a desolate landscape. The sky was a perpetual twilight, clouds swirling ominously above. The ground beneath his feet was cracked and barren, remnants of a world ravaged by endless warfare. He looked around, realizing that his interventions had not only failed but had accelerated the timeline into an unrecognizable nightmare. Panic set in as Elliot tried to recalibrate his devices, searching for any means to restore the original timeline. But each attempt only deepened the fractures, pulling him further into the chaos he had inadvertently unleashed. He felt the weight of his responsibility pressing down on him. His mission to prevent war had backfired spectacularly, creating a reality far worse than the one he had sought to change. As Elliot grappled with the collapsing timeline, memories of his past missions flickered through his mind. Each time he had attempted to alter history, the repercussions had been more severe than anticipated. He had always believed that with enough precision and caution, he could steer events toward a better future. But now, he was forced to confront the possibility that his interference was only making things worse. In the midst of his despair, Elliot noticed a subtle, almost imperceptible shift in the environment. A figure materialized from the swirling chaos, a presence that exuded an aura of calm authority. Elliot's heart skipped a beat as he recognized the entity before him. "You've been quite active," the figure remarked, its voice resonating with a timeless quality. "But meddling with the timeline is not a task to be taken lightly." Elliot took a cautious step forward, trying to steady his trembling voice. "Who are you? What have I done?" The figure smiled gently, a hint of sadness in its eyes. "I am the Timekeeper, the guardian of temporal integrity. Your intentions may be noble, but your methods have disrupted the natural flow of history." Elliot felt a surge of frustration. "I was trying to prevent war. To save countless lives. And yet, your actions have only hastened the descent into chaos," the Timekeeper replied. "Every change, no matter how small, sends ripples through time. The fractures you've created are symptoms of a deeper instability, one that cannot be mended by mere interventions." Elliot's mind raced, struggling to find a solution. Is there a way to fix this? To restore the original timeline? The Timekeeper shook its head. Time is not a linear path to be controlled. It is a complex tapestry of events, each thread interwoven with countless others. To alter one strand is to affect the entire fabric. Your attempts to stop war were destined to fail, for conflict is an intrinsic part of humanity's evolution. Elliot felt a pang of hopelessness. So, what now? Is this the end? The Timekeeper's expression softened. Not necessarily. Understanding the nature of time is the first step toward harmony. You must learn to navigate its complexities without forcing change. Only then can you find a way to coexist with its inherent unpredictability. As the Timekeeper began to fade, Elliot felt a strange sense of calm wash over him. The desolate landscape around him shimmered, and he found himself back in the crowded streets of New Manhattan, the sun shining brightly overhead. The briefcase was securely in his hand, and all his devices were intact. Was it a vision? A lesson learned? Elliot wasn't sure, but he knew one thing: his mission was far from over. The fractures in time were a warning, a sign that there were forces at play far beyond his understanding. Determined to uncover the truth, Elliot resolved to delve deeper into the mysteries of time manipulation, seeking answers that could prevent further disasters. As he walked away from the tram stop, the memory of the Timekeeper lingering in his mind, Elliot felt a renewed sense of purpose. The road ahead was uncertain, fraught with dangers both seen and unseen. But he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, armed with knowledge, determination, and the unwavering belief that he could make a difference. Little did he know, the true extent of the temporal fractures was only beginning to unfold, and the forces manipulating time had much grander plans in store. Elliot adjusted the strap of his briefcase, the weight of the Timekeeper's words lingering in his mind like a persistent echo. He had returned to New Manhattan, but the city felt different somehow, slightly off-kilter, as if reality itself had been subtly altered during his temporal ordeal. The holographic advertisements still flickered with vibrant energy, but now, their messages seemed more urgent, more desperate. He glanced around, noticing small changes that he hadn't observed before. A street performer juggled glowing orbs that vanished mid-air before reappearing, defying the laws of physics. A billboard advertised a time harmony conference, a concept that made Elliot uneasy. It was clear that the fractures in time were more widespread than he had initially realized, and the Timekeeper's cryptic message hinted at deeper layers of manipulation. Determined to uncover the truth, Elliot made his way to his hidden workshop, a nondescript building tucked away in an alley that seemed to exist outside of time itself. The door opened with a soft hiss, revealing a cluttered space filled with advanced technology, historical artifacts, and blueprints of temporal devices. He approached his workbench, where his primary temporal communicator lay dormant, its screen displaying fluctuating coordinates and timelines that he needed to understand the fractures, to map their origins and identify the source of the instability. Pulling up the holographic interface, Elliot began sifting through the data collected from his missions. Patterns began to emerge, revealing a network of temporal disturbances that spanned centuries, all converging towards a singular point in the timeline, the early 20th century. Elliot's eyes narrowed as he cross-referenced historical events with the data. The more he delved, the more he realized that the fractures weren't isolated incidents but part of a deliberate effort to reshape history. Someone, or something, was orchestrating these disruptions, ensuring that certain events unfolded in a specific, often more destructive manner. His thoughts were interrupted by the soft hum of his communicator. A message from his colleague, Dr. Maya Lin, blinked onto the screen. Maya was a renowned temporal physicist and the only person Elliot trusted with the true extent of his mission. Elliot, we've detected a significant temporal anomaly near the Berlin Conference of 1938. It's unlike anything we've seen before. You need to check it out. Elliot's pulse quickened. The Berlin Conference of 1938 was a pivotal moment leading up to World War II. If someone was manipulating events here, the repercussions could be catastrophic. He quickly packed his essential devices into the briefcase, ensuring that his emergency resets were securely in place. As he prepared to depart, a familiar flicker of a time fracture appeared in the corner of his workshop. Elliot approached cautiously, recognizing the telltale signs of temporal manipulation. He activated his communicator, initiating a secure link with Maya. Maya, what exactly are we dealing with here? He asked, his voice tense. She responded immediately, her image appearing on the screen, looking weary but resolute. Elliot, the anomaly is massive. It's not just a simple fracture, it's a nexus point where multiple timelines are converging and diverging uncontrollably. We believe it's the work of the Timekeeper's adversaries, those who seek to exploit the fractures for their own gain. Elliot frowned. Adversaries? But the Timekeeper said time is beyond control, that conflict is necessary for evolution. Who would want to manipulate time for their own purposes? Maya sighed. That's what we need to find out. Our preliminary analysis suggests that these adversaries are a shadowy organization with access to advanced temporal technology. They're not just observing history, they're actively shaping it to create a future that benefits them. Elliot felt a chill run down his spine. The Timekeeper had warned him about forces beyond his understanding, but this revelation added a new layer of complexity to his mission. He couldn't stop now. Not only was he dealing with temporal fractures, but there was an intelligent force behind them, with motives that remained unclear. We need to intercept them at the Berlin Conference, Elliot decided. If they're manipulating events here, we can disrupt their plans and potentially stabilize the timeline. Maya nodded. Agreed. I'll send you the coordinates and a detailed map of the area. Be careful, Elliot. These people are dangerous, and they won't hesitate to eliminate anyone who stands in their way. With the message sent, Elliot activated his temporal communicator and set the coordinates for Berlin, 1938. The journey through time was always a disorienting experience, but Elliot had grown accustomed to the sensations, the rush of colors, the shifting landscapes, and the inevitable moment of arrival in his target destination. When the temporal shift subsided, Elliot found himself standing on the bustling streets of Berlin. The air was thick with tension, the city on edge as political tensions simmered and alliances were forged in the shadows. He adjusted his attire to blend in with the era, a tailored suit replacing his modern leather jacket, and began navigating the crowded streets, keeping a low profile while maintaining a constant scan for any signs of the adversaries. Elliot knew that the Berlin Conference was not just a historical event but a critical juncture where the fate of nations could be swayed by unseen forces. He needed to gather information, identify the key players, and understand the adversaries' objectives. His communicator buzzed softly, indicating an incoming message from Maya. Elliot, I've managed to intercept a transmission from one of their agents, Maya reported. They're planning to influence the conference's outcomes by assassinating key diplomats. If they succeed, it will escalate tensions and pave the way for an accelerated path to global conflict. Elliot's jaw tightened. The adversaries were not content with subtle manipulations, they were willing to use outright violence to achieve their goals. He needed to act quickly to prevent another disaster. He decided to attend the conference under the guise of a foreign diplomat, leveraging his knowledge of history to navigate the political landscape. Blending in was easier said than done, but Elliot had spent countless hours studying the nuances of different eras, and his temporal tools included holographic disguises and voice modulators to aid in his deception. As he entered the Grand Conference Hall, the opulence of the venue struck him. Ornate decorations, intricate woodwork, and the murmur of high-stakes negotiations filled the air. Delegates from various nations were engaged in heated discussions, their faces a mix of determination and apprehension. Elliot made his way to a table near the center, where a group of diplomats were deep in conversation. He introduced himself as a representative from a minor nation, earning a tentative nod from the surrounding officials. As the discussions continued, Elliot remained vigilant, using his temporal communicator to monitor Maya's updates and any new data on the adversary's movements. It wasn't long before Elliot noticed suspicious activity. A man in a dark suit, his face partially obscured by a hat, seemed out of place. He kept a close eye on the man, observing his interactions and noting the subtle ways he tried to blend into the crowd while maintaining a strategic presence. Elliot's instincts told him that this man was connected to the adversaries, a key player in their plan to disrupt the conference. As the day progressed, the tension in the room grew palpable. Debates became more heated, and the threat of conflict hung heavy in the air. Elliot knew that he had to act swiftly to prevent the assassination and destabilize the adversary's plans. He decided to approach the suspicious man, hoping to gather more information or even confront him directly. "Excuse me," Elliot said, his voice steady as he addressed the man. "I couldn't help but notice you seem to have a vested interest in the outcomes of these negotiations. Is there something I can assist you with?" The man turned, his eyes narrowing as he assessed Elliot. "I'm merely here to ensure that the discussions proceed smoothly. A stable resolution benefits us all, wouldn't you agree?" Elliot nodded, keeping his demeanor calm. "Absolutely. Stability is crucial. If there's anything I can do to help facilitate that, please let me know." The man studied Elliot for a moment before giving a curt nod. "Appreciated. Let's hope for a productive session." Elliot felt a flicker of frustration. The man was too guarded, too evasive. He needed more information, but approaching him directly could raise suspicions. He decided to use his temporal tools to discreetly gather data, tapping into the man's communication devices to intercept any hidden transmissions. As the evening wore on, Elliot's patience was tested. The discussions showed signs of progress, but underlying tensions threatened to boil over at any moment. He knew that the adversaries were likely planning to strike when the conference reached its peak intensity, targeting key figures to send shockwaves through the political landscape. Determined to prevent the impending disaster, Elliot focused his efforts on tracking the man's movements and identifying any potential weak points in his plans. He observed the man interacting with various delegates, noting patterns and establishing a timeline of his activities. It became clear that the man was coordinating with multiple agents, each playing a role in the grand scheme to manipulate history. Elliot realized that a direct confrontation was inevitable. He needed to neutralize the threat without causing a larger disruption to the timeline. With a plan forming in his mind, he decided to create a diversion, something significant enough to draw the man's attention away from his true intentions. He activated a device from his briefcase, a small temporal disruptor designed to create a controlled anomaly. The device emitted a subtle pulse, causing a temporary blackout in one section of the conference hall. Lights flickered, and a momentary hush fell over the room as delegates looked around in confusion. Seizing the opportunity, Elliot approached the man once more. "I believe you're hiding something," he stated firmly. "I've detected unauthorized transmissions on your device. Care to explain?" The man's eyes flashed with irritation, but he maintained his composure. "You have no proof of such an accusation. I suggest you focus on your own affairs." Elliot pressed further, sensing that the man was hiding crucial information. "I'm not one to make baseless claims. If you're involved in something illicit, now would be the time to come clean. The consequences could be dire for us all." Before the man could respond, another temporal fracture opened nearby, this one more volatile and chaotic than the previous ones. The very fabric of the conference hall seemed to tremble as the anomaly expanded, warping reality with unpredictable distortions. Delegates began to panic, unsure of what was happening. Elliot realized that the adversaries had anticipated his actions. They were using the fractures to mask their true intentions, exploiting the chaos to execute their plans without detection. The timekeeper's warnings echoed in his mind. There was a deeper force at play, one that thrived on the fractures and the resulting instability. In the midst of the turmoil, Elliot saw the man in the dark suit slipping away, blending into the chaos. He knew that the adversaries were using the fractures as cover, allowing them to operate freely while the rest of the world remained oblivious to their machinations. Determined not to let their efforts go in vain, Elliot decided to follow the man, tracking his movements through the shifting landscape of the fractured timeline. The journey was disorienting, the laws of physics bending and twisting in ways that defied logic. Elliot had to rely on his temporal tools and sheer willpower to navigate the ever-changing environment. After what felt like an eternity of chasing shadows and dodging temporal anomalies, Elliot found himself in a hidden chamber beneath the conference hall. The room was filled with advanced technology, far beyond anything he had seen before, devices that manipulated time with precision, holographic displays showcasing complex data streams, and symbols that resonated with a power he couldn't fully comprehend. At the center of the chamber stood the man in the dark suit, flanked by a group of agents. Elliot realized that he had uncovered the heart of the adversary's operation, an underground network dedicated to reshaping history according to their own agenda. The timekeeper's warnings now made perfect sense. This organization was the true enemy, using time manipulation to steer humanity towards a future that benefited them, regardless of the cost. Before Elliot could act, one of the agents spotted him, raising an alarm that echoed through the chamber. The room descended into chaos as agents mobilized, their advanced weaponry and temporal devices turning the chamber into a battlefield. Elliot fought back with everything he had, using his gadgets to create barriers, distort time around him, and evade capture. The fight was intense, a desperate struggle against forces that seemed to anticipate his every move. As the battle raged on, Elliot realized that brute force alone wouldn't be enough to defeat the adversaries. He needed to disable their central device, the core of their temporal manipulation, to halt their plans and stabilize the fractures. Focusing his efforts, he targeted the main control panel, using his knowledge of temporal physics to disrupt the device's energy flow. The chamber began to tremble as the device malfunctioned, temporal energy spiraling out of control. Elliot knew that the only way to prevent a catastrophic collapse was to contain the explosion, even if it meant sacrificing himself to save the timeline. Gathering his resolve, he activated his emergency reset device, channeling all his remaining energy into stabilizing the anomaly. A blinding light enveloped the chamber as the temporal disruptor reached its peak, the energy waves rippling outward in a controlled implosion. Elliot felt the very essence of time pulling at him, threatening to tear him apart. But he held on, his determination unwavering, as he channeled his life force into the device, creating a temporal anchor that would contain the explosion and prevent further fractures. With a final, desperate effort, Elliot succeeded. The chamber stabilized, the temporal energy dissipating into the ether. The adversaries were neutralized, their plans thwarted, and the fractures in time began to heal, the timeline slowly returning to its intended course. But the cost was immense. Elliot felt his strength waning, the life force he had invested into the device draining away. As he lay on the ground, the chamber around him fading into the folds of time, Elliot heard the soft footsteps of the timekeeper approaching. The entity's presence was calming, a stark contrast to the chaos that had just ensued. "You did well, Elliot," the timekeeper said, its voice gentle yet resonant. "But the balance of time requires more than just one individual's efforts. You've taken a significant step towards understanding its complexities." Elliot struggled to speak, his voice barely a whisper. "Is this the end? Have we stopped the fractures?" The timekeeper shook its head. "This is but one battle in an ongoing war. The fractures will always seek to destabilize the timeline, but with each act of resistance, you contribute to the harmony of time. Your sacrifice has provided a moment of stability, but the journey ahead remains uncertain." Elliot felt a surge of exhaustion, his vision dimming as the last remnants of temporal energy faded. What now? How do we stop them completely? The timekeeper's form began to shimmer, becoming less distinct as if it were part of the very fabric of time. Understanding and coexistence are key. The adversaries are manifestations of the same forces that maintain the balance of time. To truly stop them, one must seek harmony rather than control. Your mission is far from over, Elliot. Embrace the unpredictability of time, and work alongside its inherent chaos to find a path forward. With those final words, the timekeeper vanished, leaving Elliot alone in the chamber. He felt himself slipping, the boundaries between time and reality blurring as his consciousness began to dissipate. But even as darkness claimed him, a sense of purpose burned brightly within his fading mind. Elliot Whitmore's journey was far from complete. The fractures in time had been temporarily stabilized, but the forces manipulating history remained a formidable threat. As he drifted into the void, he vowed to continue the fight, to unravel the mysteries of time, and to find a way to coexist with its ever-shifting currents. Elliot Whitmore's consciousness drifted in the liminal space between existence and oblivion, the whispers of the timekeeper's words echoing in the void. The chamber where he had sacrificed himself began to fade, the once solid walls dissolving into streams of temporal energy. Yet, instead of succumbing to the darkness, Elliot felt a pull, a gentle tug guiding him back to the folds of reality. His eyes fluttered open, and he found himself standing in a serene landscape that seemed untouched by time's relentless march. The sky was a canvas of soft hues, with the sun casting a warm, golden glow over rolling hills and blooming flowers. It was a stark contrast to the desolate, war-torn world he had left behind moments ago. Elliot took a tentative step forward, feeling an unfamiliar sense of peace wash over him. "Welcome back, Elliot," a voice intoned softly, resonating with both authority and kindness. He turned to see the timekeeper standing before him, its form more tangible yet still ethereal. The entity radiated a calming presence, its eyes reflecting the vast expanse of time itself. "Elliot," he whispered, struggling to comprehend his surroundings. "Am I alive?" The timekeeper nodded. "You are. Your sacrifice did more than stabilize the timeline, it opened a path of understanding and growth. Time is a force of balance, and your actions have contributed to its harmony." Elliot felt a surge of relief mingled with confusion. "But the fractures, are they healed?" "In part," the timekeeper replied. "Your efforts have mended some of the rifts, but others remain. The adversaries you encountered are manifestations of imbalance, entities seeking to exploit the fractures for their own ends. To achieve true harmony, you must continue your work, not by forcing change, but by guiding and understanding the flow of time." He pondered the timekeeper's words, the weight of his mission settling back onto his shoulders. "How can I help? If changing the past only causes more harm, what can I do?" "By fostering resilience and adaptability," the timekeeper explained. "Encourage pivotal moments that promote growth, understanding, and cooperation. Your role is not to prevent conflicts outright but to ensure that humanity learns and evolves from them." Elliot took a deep breath, absorbing the gravity of his new directive. "I understand. But how do I locate these key moments without causing further disruptions?" The timekeeper gestured to the horizon, where the landscape shimmered with possibilities. "Time is a tapestry, and each thread represents a decision, an event. Use your knowledge and empathy to identify moments where intervention can guide outcomes subtly. Remember, even the smallest act of kindness or understanding can have profound effects on the future." With renewed determination, Elliot set off across the tranquil landscape, his mind focused on the timekeeper's guidance. He knew that his journey was far from over. In fact, it was only just beginning. The fractures in time required constant vigilance and a delicate touch, balancing intervention with non-interference. His first destination was the year 1963, the moment of President John F. Kennedy's assassination. Elliot had long studied this event, recognizing its profound impact on American politics and global dynamics. Instead of attempting to prevent the assassination outright, he focused on fostering a climate of understanding and resilience within key figures around Kennedy, hoping to mitigate the ensuing turmoil. arriving in Dallas on that fateful November day, Elliot blended seamlessly into the bustling crowd. He engaged with influential individuals, subtly encouraging dialogue and empathy, planting seeds of unity that would help heal the nation's wounds in the aftermath. It was a delicate dance, requiring patience and finesse, but Elliot could feel the positive shifts beginning to take root. As he moved through different eras, Elliot encountered various pivotal moments: the signing of the Civil Rights Act, the fall of the Berlin Wall, the dawn of the digital age. In each instance, he focused on fostering understanding and cooperation, rather than altering events drastically. The changes were subtle but significant, weaving a more harmonious thread into the tapestry of time. However, the adversaries were not idle. They adapted to Elliot's methods, finding new ways to exploit fractures and manipulate outcomes. Elliot realized that their attempts were becoming more sophisticated, their interventions more insidious. They sought to create divisions where unity was needed, to stoke conflicts under the guise of progress. One evening, while reflecting on his progress under the starlit sky of the tranquil landscape, Elliot was approached by the timekeeper once more. "You are making remarkable strides, Elliot," it commended. "But the adversaries grow bolder. They feed on discord and uncertainty, thriving in the shadows of conflict." Elliot nodded, his expression serious. "How do I counteract them? They seem to anticipate my moves, always staying one step ahead." The timekeeper's eyes shimmered with timeless wisdom. "They are manifestations of imbalance, fueled by fear and greed. To counteract them, you must embody the very principles they seek to undermine: empathy, understanding, and resilience. Inspire others to embrace these values, creating a collective strength that cannot be easily dismantled." Elliot considered this, realizing that his role extended beyond temporal manipulation. He needed to influence not just events, but the hearts and minds of individuals, fostering a global culture of cooperation and compassion. It was a monumental task, but he felt the weight of purpose guiding him forward. His next mission took him to the dawn of the Internet era, a pivotal moment where technology began to reshape human interaction. Elliot recognized the potential for both unity and division inherent in this new medium. He worked to promote ethical standards, encouraging innovators to prioritize connectivity and collaboration over competition and isolation. As he navigated the complexities of each era, Elliot became increasingly adept at identifying and nurturing the subtle shifts that could steer humanity toward a more harmonious future. He built alliances with like-minded individuals, forming a network of temporal guardians who shared his vision of a balanced timeline, but the adversaries were relentless. They orchestrated crises and conflicts, exploiting vulnerabilities and pushing humanity toward the brink of chaos. Elliot found himself in a constant battle, not just against external forces, but also against his own doubts and fears. The weight of responsibility was immense, and the stakes had never been higher. One night, amidst the serene landscape, Elliot encountered Maya Lin, his trusted colleague and ally from his initial mission. She had been monitoring his progress, offering support and insights from her vantage point within the temporal network. "Elliot," Maya greeted, her presence reassuring. "I've been tracking the adversaries' movements. They're intensifying their efforts, targeting key moments to sow discord on a global scale." Elliot sighed, rubbing his temples. "I can feel their influence spreading. It's like they're tapping into the collective unconscious, manipulating fears and insecurities." Maya nodded. "Exactly. They're not just altering events, they're shaping the very psyche of humanity. To counteract this, we need to amplify the positive influences, strengthen the foundations of empathy and cooperation on a global level." Together, they devised a strategy to harness the power of emerging technologies and social movements, leveraging them to promote unity and understanding. They focused on fostering grassroots initiatives, empowering individuals to become agents of change within their communities. Their efforts began to bear fruit. Movements for social justice, environmental sustainability, and global cooperation gained momentum, countering the adversaries' attempts to incite division. Elliot and Maya worked tirelessly, their collaboration a beacon of hope amidst the encroaching darkness. However, the adversaries were cunning, exploiting moments of weakness to undermine their progress. Elliot found himself facing increasingly sophisticated challenges, forcing him to evolve his methods and deepen his understanding of time's intricate dynamics. One day, while attending a global summit aimed at addressing climate change, Elliot sensed a familiar temporal disturbance. He glanced around, noticing subtle signs of manipulation, unexplained tensions between delegates, suspicious interactions that hinted at underlying agendas. It was a classic adversarial tactic, sowing discord to derail meaningful progress. Determined to counteract their influence, Elliot engaged with key figures, fostering open dialogue and encouraging collaborative problem-solving. He emphasized the shared responsibility of humanity to safeguard the planet, appealing to the innate sense of stewardship within each individual. As the summit progressed, Elliot felt a shift in the atmosphere. The delegates began to transcend their differences, united by a common purpose. It was a testament to the power of empathy and cooperation, a direct challenge to the adversaries' divisive tactics. But just as progress seemed within reach, a sudden fracture tore through the summit hall, unleashing a surge of temporal energy. The room plunged into chaos as delegates scrambled to comprehend the unfolding anomaly. Elliot realized that the adversaries had orchestrated this disruption, using it as a cover to execute their true plan, an insidious plot to reset the timeline entirely. "Not again," he muttered, frustration lacing his voice. "They're trying to undo everything we've worked for." Maya appeared beside him, her expression resolute. "We need to stop them, Elliot. This time, we have to be prepared for their tactics." They sprang into action, utilizing their temporal tools to stabilize the anomaly and counteract the adversaries' interference. The battle was intense, a clash of wills and technologies across the fractured fabric of time. Elliot and Maya worked in unison, their coordinated efforts a testament to their unwavering commitment to preserving the timeline's integrity. Amidst the chaos, Elliot tapped into the timekeeper's teachings, channeling empathy and understanding into his actions. He recognized that brute force alone would not suffice. He needed to inspire those around him to join the fight, to harness the collective strength of humanity against the forces of discord. As the temporal energy began to stabilize, Elliot felt a surge of hope. The adversaries' plot was thwarted, their attempt to reset the timeline neutralized by the united efforts of Elliot, Maya, and the global community they had inspired. The summit hall returned to normal, the delegates resuming their discussions with renewed vigor and cooperation. Breathing heavily, Elliot looked around, taking in the sight of delegates working together, their differences set aside in the face of a shared goal. It was a powerful reminder of the resilience and capacity for unity inherent in humanity. The timekeeper's voice echoed in his mind once more. "You have done well, Elliot. But the journey continues. The balance of time requires constant vigilance and the unwavering pursuit of harmony." Elliot nodded, understanding that his mission was an ongoing one, a perpetual effort to guide and nurture the flow of time toward a balanced and prosperous future. He felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that his actions had made a meaningful impact, but also a recognition of the challenges that still lay ahead. As he and Maya stood together, watching the delegates engage in constructive dialogue, Elliot felt a profound connection to the tapestry of time. Each thread represented countless lives, decisions, and moments of change. His role was not to control or dominate, but to support and guide, fostering an environment where humanity could thrive amidst the complexities of existence. In the days that followed, Elliot continued his work, traveling to various pivotal moments in history, always mindful of the delicate balance required to influence outcomes positively. He encountered both triumphs and setbacks, each experience deepening his understanding of time's intricate dance. One evening, as the sun set over the tranquil landscape, Elliot and Maya found themselves reflecting on their journey. "We've come a long way," Maya mused, a hint of weariness in her voice. "But there's still so much to do." Elliot smiled, a sense of camaraderie and purpose strengthening their bond. "Yes, but we've proven that change is possible. As long as we stay committed to fostering understanding and cooperation, we can continue to guide humanity toward a better future." Maya nodded, her eyes shining with determination. Agreed. Let's keep moving forward, one moment at a time. As they set off into the horizon, Elliot felt a renewed sense of hope and determination. The fractures in time would always present challenges, but with each act of empathy and cooperation, the tapestry of history grew stronger and more resilient. In the end, Elliot realized that his true mission was not to prevent wars or alter events, but to inspire humanity to evolve, to learn from its mistakes, and to build a future founded on unity and understanding. It was a monumental task, but one that he approached with unwavering resolve, guided by the timeless wisdom of the timekeeper and the support of his steadfast ally, Maya. Together, they navigated the ever-shifting currents of time, their efforts weaving a narrative of resilience and hope. The adversaries remained a persistent threat, but with each victory, Elliot and Maya strengthened the bonds that held the timeline together, ensuring that the fractures could be managed and healed, rather than exploited and widened. As the years passed, Elliot's influence grew, his actions rippling through the fabric of time, leaving lasting impressions on the course of history. He became a guardian of temporal harmony, a silent architect shaping the destiny of humanity with compassion and foresight. One day, as Elliot stood atop a hill overlooking a thriving cityscape, he felt the presence of the timekeeper once more. "You have fulfilled your role admirably, Elliot," it said. "Your journey exemplifies the harmony that can be achieved when empathy and understanding guide our actions." Elliot looked out at the vibrant world before him, a testament to the collective efforts of countless individuals striving for a better future. "Thank you," he replied, a sense of peace settling within him. "But the work continues. There will always be challenges, moments that test our resolve. As long as we remain committed to fostering unity, we can navigate whatever comes our way." The timekeeper's form shimmered, its essence blending seamlessly with the surroundings. "Indeed. Time is an ever-evolving tapestry, and your contributions have ensured its resilience. Continue to inspire, guide, and support, for the future is shaped by the choices of today." With those final words, the timekeeper faded, leaving Elliot with a profound sense of purpose and fulfillment. He knew that his journey was far from over, but he embraced the challenges ahead with confidence, knowing that he was not alone in his quest to preserve the delicate balance of time. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the landscape, Elliot Whitmore took a deep breath, ready to face whatever moments awaited him. His mission was clear: to be a beacon of empathy and understanding in the ever-shifting currents of time, ensuring that humanity's journey was one of growth, resilience, and unwavering hope. And so, with each step he took, Elliot continued to weave his influence into the fabric of history, a silent guardian guiding humanity toward a harmonious and prosperous future, one moment at a time. The end.